So we have an interesting new knife here, and the way it's built and put together, I've never seen this method done on any pocket knife before. So it's pretty interesting, and we're gonna take it apart and I'm gonna show you guys how it goes together. This is the REMETTE URBANE, and it's a titanium liner lock, titanium scales with this machining on the bolsters, desert ironwood, titanium backspacer, and milled pocket clip. Now, the titanium liners do have a steel lock bar insert, and there's plenty of access to get to the lock bar because the gap's big enough, so it's actually pretty comfortable. And this thing has many forms of deployment, and surprisingly, this thing has a phenomenal detent. They tuned, not even just the detent, the action all the way around is good. The flipper tab, nice and comfortable, perfect amount of tension, nice snappy detent. The thumb studs are nice and big, offer a nice comfortable platform to whether you want to reverse flick or thumb flick, and they're placed really nicely so you can just get right to them and pop them up. Then you have the hole deployment, also pretty good. I think the studs are a little bit better, but it works. Then you have the front flipper, which works great. They tune the detent perfect for all these, and that's why it's like when other companies that are much more premium than this can't pull that off, you know, it's shocking. Anyways, the Damascus, I'm not sure the steel. I'm waiting to hear back from them what steel is in the Damascus. I'm guessing it's a VG10. You know, it looks very similar to some of the other Damascus blades we've seen from some other companies, so that's just what I'm gonna guess. You know, it's pretty cool. It has a good pattern to it, but hopefully they know what, and you know, that would be a negative thing, not that we're in the negatives yet, and I do have some complaints we'll talk about, but they need to list the steel, at least the core steel of the Damascus, because Damascus is not a steel. If you see a company saying Damascus, that says nothing. That's a process. That's a method. The steel, Damascus is made of different steels blended together, basically, and then etched. So I want to know what steel this Damascus, what's in this Damascus. Anyways, so let's show you how this thing actually comes together, or, you know, is built. Okay, so if you look at this piece of titanium, you can see there's two screws popping up. Now, those go into these two grooves on this titanium, and it basically pops in and goes into the groove, kind of like a picture frame. There's actually, you know, a lot of different things, even like some like cabinets and things like that work like this. And once it's in place, you just pop it up, or you push it into the notches, pop it up, and then once this goes here, it prevents it from sliding back down. So now it can't pop off until this comes out, slide it down, and you pop it out. And then, you know, if you look, you can see now we have the pivot, the hardware, where we can take it all apart. It functions just fine, obviously, without the scales, because the scales, you know, this is kind of like the frame right here, or liners, whatever you want to call it, and these are just scales that go over them. But pretty cool how it's set up like this. This is not a bad way to do a knife design. However, it could have been done better. What they should have done is these screws, and I've tried to adjust them. They won't go in any deeper. So because they won't go in any deeper, they're not very tight. Like when I push up, what should happen is it should almost like get it really snug. And it's almost snug, but you know, it's so close. Actually, you know, it might be, it's actually a little more snug than it was, but let me see. Maybe it's just this side now. Let me try to adjust the other side. But if you're going to do this, you need to make sure, in many cases, that the side where it grooves into it almost wedges itself, where it's not just pushing up into the slot, where it actually, you know, you have to almost like, you know, push it and wedge it up to where it's nice and tight, so there's no rattling, no movement or anything like that. Now, after taking off this side, you can see it's got the same concept. So now it's just the liners. Still pretty solid, you know, considering. Yeah, like very solid. Yeah, they did a good job with that part. Now, as far as these go, I'm going to try... Oh, yeah, these ones will actually go in a little bit more. Okay, cool. So this actually might fix the issue I'm having. So, because the issue... Wait, which side is that? Because the issue I'm having is that these screws are not pushed in deep enough. So it basically makes it to where it's not wedging up into that space. Oh, that was too tight now. Okay. You know what? Let me try it one more time. Yeah. So you obviously don't want them too tight, so now I need to back these off just a tiny, tiny hint. And then pop it back on, see if that works. There we go. Okay, now nice and tight. So now when I put this scale on, it should hold it in place and we shouldn't get all the movement that I was getting previously. You can actually see right there the screws after, you know, putting it back together, how, you know, they wedge and they wedge upward, which, you know, like I said, this is a pretty fascinating way how they put the knife together. I've seen this done on cabinets. I've hung, obviously, picture frames on the wall go like this. And there is, you know, some people might look at this and be like, well, that's not going to be very strong. Well, that's actually not true. You'd be surprised how many things are anchored like this. But the thing is that after it's anchored that way, to put something into place from it preventing itself from unanchoring or unwedging, you know, that is where the strength comes in. So, you know, I have no problem with it. The problem I have is just that when it first showed up, it was very clicky. Like I could feel these things moving a little bit. Now I've got 98% of it gone. So it's okay. But I can feel it. Now, another thing that I really don't like is that when I disengage it, I can hear something. I don't know what it is. Hear that? I've sat here and tried to figure it out. I can't figure it out. Yeah, I mean, I've done everything I can to figure it out, and I have no idea what it is. It's not the detent ball rolling on the blade. It's something clicking and moving. I've taken it all the way apart, screwed down all the screws, so that's just weird to me. But yeah, I have no idea what that sound is, so that would be a negative, obviously, right? I shouldn't have to work on my knife fresh out of the box to figure out where this noise is coming from. That is not common, right? You know, if it was, then I would know exactly where it's coming from, you know, so that means there is some sort of negative issue. The ergonomics, you know, they're good, they're okay. I would not say that these are bad ergonomics. I would say, you know, this thing is fairly cool. The problem is that it looks like a damn gas station knife. That's their biggest issue here. This looks like a cheap gas station knife that you see all these companies selling on Amazon or out of gas stations and quickie marts. Yes, it's made of premium materials, or at least somewhat premium. But that doesn't stop it from looking like that, you know, and what I mean is like this, the Damascus steel, you know, with this milling pattern stuff, with the wood, it just does not look good to knife guys. Now, maybe this might appeal to non-knife guys or guys just getting into knives to some extent, but it's not going to appeal to the knife market as far as the knife community. Yes, it has great action, and I want to be clear. REMETTE, I've got a bunch of REMETTEs, and REMETTE, you know, or for the most part, does a really good job. I have a few of their models that have absolutely surprised me how good they are. So I don't want to make it seem like these guys are doing crap knives, because they're not. They're absolutely not. They're actually doing pretty good work. This one just has, you know, a couple issues and I can't figure them out. But not only that, the biggest issue, number one, you know, is just that they used this Damascus next to this milled out titanium. And to be honest, you should probably just use a steel. Just use one simple steel. Don't even use Damascus. And the reason why is because there are so many Pakistani Damascus knives out there. And when you have it listed as Damascus and not what the Damascus is made out of, it scares people away. So don't even use Damascus. Maybe there's a bunch of people that are non-knife people that buy it off Amazon and that's why they do it. I don't know. But anybody that understands knives are only going to get the Damascus blades from companies that say what steel it's made out of and are actually have a reputation of doing a good job with their Damascus. Now it does come with a leather slip and a tool. I would never use the slip because it does have the titanium mill pocket clip. However, let's say you want to use the slip. The slip is okay. It's decent. I like the stitching. I think the stitching is done pretty well. I'm not a big fan of the leather. The leather is cheap leather, and I can show you how you can tell. It's got this like coating over it, and if you look, you can see it's only one layer. So if you look at quality leather or full grain leather, you'll see that there's different layers. So you can see the top layer, the middle layer, and then the inside layer, which, you know, is, you know, a bunch of layers that basically form the strength and the bond. It's kind of like a web where each layer needs each other to be the best quality. Not that this is, you know, gonna tear apart or anything like that. It's not that. It's just that this makes it so much more durable, much more stronger and everything. This one is just, it's basically they sanded down the inside layer. They sanded it all the way down to where you're only going to get the first layer or the first two layers. And that's what you have here, is just that one layer. And that's also why they put this coating on there. It's basically to hold it together so that, you know, it stays together and it feels more durable and doesn't come apart and isn't fragile. Not saying that it would have, but, you know, when the thinner you make it, obviously the more susceptible it is to tearing apart, because like I said, it's like a webbing, you know, where it bonds together, and when you start taking apart that bond, you know, you're making it weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker. But anyways, it's not that big of a deal. It's an affordable, you know, relatively affordable knife for what you're getting, so I wouldn't have expected to get, you know, super high quality leather, but I was just kind of trying to show you, you know, how you can kind of tell the difference between quality leather and decent and then poor quality. All in all, you know, it's a cool knife. You know, I like the concept, but it's definitely not for me. It's definitely not something I would recommend, but it's pretty cool though. You know, it's an interesting idea, and I do think that it could possibly be done in a better way. I think that, you know, I think these screws inside here, that this construction could possibly be a decent setup and could possibly be a really cool build. And there's probably even other ways to do it even better, you know, where there's no hardware even on the scales at all. You know, the action is just so good that it kind of, you know, throws you away when you feel that action. I mean, this thing is complete fall shut. Detent's great, man. No detent lash. It's solid, you know, no play or anything like that. Anyways, there you guys go. Work hard, stay tough. Until next time, peace.